We all know the U.S. empire coos more than a horny dove. Every waking moment, they're either cooing, preparing to coup, or thinking about cooing dozens of countries. Often the list is so long that even those of us who care, not a large number, ignore half of them. So let's talk about an important one that gets less coverage than Lisa Monabal's angina. I said angina, her heart condition. Jesus, Gary. There's a young revolutionary leader named Ibrahim Traoré in Burkina Faso, and somebody, or maybe a lot of people, seem to have it out for him. He barely survived a foreign orchestrated coup 2 months ago. The plotters, he said, were based in Ivory Coast, a Washington-based neighborhood where American military presence has recently expanded. It wasn't us. There's other people living in that neighborhood. Maybe it was the chicken farmer next door who planned the assassination attempt. Ibrahim Traoré took power in a military coup in September 2022, and the U.S. establishment is definitely laying the groundwork for removing him. Recently, General Michael Langley, commander of U.S. Africa Command, AFRICOM, spoke before the Senate. Despite its name, AFRICOM brings zero calm to Africa. Should be called No! Langley accused Traoré of corruption while connecting it to Russia and China. He criticized evil China and dastardly Russia while also going after an anti-imperialist African leader. We love killing two birds with one stone, which I've never understood, because if you're one of those two birds and the stone's coming at you, don't you pull the other guy in front of you at the last second? I mean, come on. Anyway, here's the commander of the U.S. imperial effort to further the destruction of Africa being questioned by Congress.
I can imagine a situation, though, in which the ruling elite of a country is receiving gratuities on the side that inure to the benefit of the strongman leader, and not to the populace of the country. Does that sort of corruption and bribery go on with regard to the Belt and Road?
Absolutely, Chairman. I see this, and I don't mind calling them out, but Captain Traoré and Burkina Faso, whether it's their gold reserves, that is all those proceeds are just in exchange to protect the junta regime.
Oh, really? Senator Wicker, can you imagine a situation where a country's ruling elite are corrupt? Can you imagine that because you're sitting neck deep in a country like that? A country where every president in recent history enriches themselves, like Obama doing a single $400,000 speech for Goldman Sachs. And that doesn't seem much different for Congress people who do more insider trading than an organ transplant doctor. Hit pause if you need a second to get that one, because it's worth it. But no, Senator Wicker and Captain America there will ignore the breathtaking hypocrisy of their comments because that's what they're paid to do. They are lying shills. They suck ass. So let's talk about what General Langley, yes, he's somehow named after the headquarters of the CIA. Let's talk about what he says. All the gold is going to the ruling elite of Burkina Faso. Well, we have to assume that anything the commander of AFRICOM says about Africa is childlike lies. There is exactly zero track record of the Pentagon being honest about other countries, let alone our own country. They literally can't account for trillions of dollars at the Pentagon, but I'm sure they know where every dollar goes in Burkina Faso. But here's the true part of what he says. Traoré has made moves to nationalize the nation's mining industry. Burkina Faso's economy revolves around gold, with the precious metal accounting for over 80% of its exports. The country is the world's 13th largest producer of gold. This upsets the snowflakes running the U.S. empire because it means giving the profits to the people of Burkina Faso rather than to intercontinental ballistic shitheads. But even if it were true that the Traoré government were taking all the gold for their own country, who the are you to question that? You're the imperial country that has been R-wording Africa for hundreds of years. And by R-wording, I mean rubbing down Nice little massage. There you go, Africa. Yeah, non-consensual, but still. And what's your solution? The government of Burkina Faso is keeping the gold from Burkina Faso, so the U.S. Army or the CIA need to go into Burkina Faso, destroy their government, put in a brand new puppet, one with a wide butt for many hands, and ensure that gold gets to rich white countries who want it? I think that might be called stealing and shitty and sociopathic. But you should know a lot about that, because in high school, you were voted most likely to stealing shitty sociopath your way to success. I'm sure the Parksville Cougars are proud of you, General. But Senator Wicker wasn't done spraying crocodile tears. Sorry, croco-shit tears.
You can't imagine how frustrating it seems to me that this mineral-rich continent has not been able to move to a utilization of the resources to benefit the people.
Oh, is it frustrating? Do you lose sleep over it, Roger Wicker? Are you worried about the people of Africa you have never helped in any way? And where, pray tell, have those resources gone? Oh, they've been stolen by the Western world for hundreds of years. People have written whole articles and books about it. Have you read a book, Senator? Here's an article from Nick Dearden, the director of the organization Global Justice Now. Africa is not poor. We are stealing its wealth. If you need help understanding that title, Senator Wicker, I can come over to your house and diagram it on your stupid forehead. If you need a little help understanding the broader history, turn to any of your colleagues there in Congress who happen to have darker skin than yours, even the general you're speaking to. Ask them about their ancestors and how they ended up in the United States. Oh, their ancestors were stolen from Africa like property? I wonder if your ancestors back then were frustrated that the people of Africa couldn't be given back to the people of Africa. I think I have a guess as to why you're whining about Burkina Faso as if they stole your boyfriend, even though the U.S. ruling elite genuinely care about the human beings of any country that isn't the United States. Exactly zero. Here's why. Traoré has been systematically limiting the influence of Western powers in his country, calling it a matter of national sovereignty. He expelled the French ambassador and the French troops that had long been present in their former imperial colony, and the U.S. jackboots know full well that standing up and fighting back against imperialism can be more contagious than HPV at the CPAC after-hours party hosted by Roger Stone. Traoré's actions helped spark a wave of other West African nations formerly part of the French Empire to do the same. Today, Mali, Chad, Senegal, Niger, and Ivory Coast have expelled French forces from their lands. President Emmanuel Macron responded by accusing Burkina Faso and others of ingratitude, adding that these nations forgot to thank France. Oh, did they forget to thank France? Yes, much like an abused spouse forgetting to thank her husband for when he stopped hitting her because it was her birthday. How dare Burkina Faso not thank their and pillagers for all the good work they've done for them? Macron is a shit-stained sociopath like all of the ruling elite. I don't care if he wears a bow tie sometimes. If you care to have deeper thoughts than Senator Bootlicker here, you might wonder why so many African nations have past connections to Western countries like Belgium, Britain, Germany, France, the Netherlands, and the US. In some cases, still using the currency of those countries. Well, it goes back to the 1885 Berlin Conference. Okay, it goes back way before that, but at the 1885 conference, it was made clearer than Tilda Swinton's skin. At the Berlin Conference, the imperial nations who shared many commonalities, all white, got together, literally put a map of Africa on the wall, and then made up nations to hand out to each other like Halloween candy. It was an orgy of pillaging and white supremacy. The national borders they drew up had little to no connection to the actual people, the tribes, the history of the land. The new borders cut tribes down the middle or even villages while clumping together other people who were at war with each other. It was like the show Big Brother, except with a continent. Much of Africa is still trying to deal with the fallout of this utterly psychopathic white supremacist lunacy. And then there's also the fact that they gave these new nations away to white imperial countries to extract the resources as they saw fit. Yet for some reason, France has never said thank you to Burkina Faso. Come on, Macron, would you like to thank them for all the gold they gave you and your fellow asshats for hundreds of years? No? How rude. Back to Traoré. He also kicked out many Western government-backed media outlets and organizations, calling them agents of neocolonialism, which is not, it's totally true. Yeah, it's totally true. But the French are not done yet. Although formerly independent for over half a century, France maintained significant control over its former African colonies. 14 nations use the CFA franc, an international currency set at a fixed rate against the French franc and now the euro. This makes doing business with France far more economically beneficial for Burkina Faso than any other countries. Currency is a form of control. It causes countries and people to do things against their own long-term interests, like blowing past all climate crisis boundaries because we need to keep oil flowing in order to keep the petrodollar strong. Oh, shit. I said it. Gary bet me I couldn't go the full show without saying petrodollar. I made it 8 minutes.
Told you.
You know what? I don't need it. I don't need it right now. Traoré has announced his plan to leave the CFA franc and start a new currency. We know what happens to African and Middle Eastern leaders who say they're leaving a Western currency. Libya, Iraq, Syria, Venezuela. You know what? Maybe keep it on the DL, Traoré. Just start using seashells as currency under the table or something. But the number one time the U.S. and other Western nations seek to destroy another country is when the leader is both keeping their resources for their own people and uniting with other countries. Whatever you do, don't unite with other. Oh, God, he's gonna do it. No! Along with Mali and Niger, Traoré established the Alliance of Sahel States, a pan-African union of states that sees itself as the first step towards a unified anti-imperialist Africa. Oh, shit. Here we go. The psychopaths are going to come out of the woodwork. Let me guess. Tomorrow we'll hear Traoré used chemical weapons against his own people. These playbooks are just so tired. Can't we get a new script? Not because I don't want U.S.-backed coups destroying innocent people's lives. I love that part. Just because I'm bored. Give us something new. Traoré has been telling others in Africa to follow his lead. He said, why does resource-rich Africa remain the poorest region of the world? The heads of African states should not behave like puppets in the hands of the imperialists. But, as Alan MacLeod reminds us, many African leaders have come to power promising radical change, but have failed to deliver. Then again, failed to deliver is a broad term. Most of those African leaders were couped, assassinated, blackmailed, extorted, threatened, given wedgies, sometimes all at the same time, often with the help of the United States. But U.S. power is waning. Here's the good news. We can't suicide people the way that we did back in the good old days. I mean, we totally still can, and we do. Epstein. But it's not as easy because people make a hashtag and then everyone's talking about it. It's a real bummer. And then you have to pretend that the guy shot himself in the back of the head twice with nothing but a paper t-shirt. It just gets weird.